Gran Turismo just raced into theaters this weekend, and of course, I wanted to talk about the 2023 video game adaptations. We've got about a handful of these things now, and I think it's a good time to talk about the quality of these films and kind of see if the video game adaptations are in a healthy space. And of course, I don't want to just talk about the theater experiences because there's also two shows that I've enjoyed watching this last year as well. And I feel like those are good things to have as part of this conversation. I also want to mention too that even though Tetris is a video game movie, we're not going to talk about Tetris here because I feel like it focuses more on the real life making of and distribution of that game. There's also this pinball movie that is about the same as well. We're strictly talking about video games that are in franchises or they clearly take the video game property to the next level onto the big screen. Gran Turismo is a weird mixture because it's a video game movie that also has a true story attached to it. So that's going to be the one kind of caveat here. So let's start off with kind of the first one that I really watched this year to see if it actually was quality wise. So the first one we're going to talk about is The Last of Us, starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Now, The Last of Us has two video games out, and this is actually, fun fact, one of the very first daily notes I ever did was on The Last of Us Part 2 video game review. Really love the video games from this series by Naughty Dog, and of course, immediately got excited when they announced that they were going to do The Last of Us TV show. And then Pedro Pascal's name got attached to it, and I was even more excited. And then Bella Ramsey, who I was a big fan of in Game of Thrones, also got attached. So I was kind of really optimistic about it. And I didn't know exactly how true to the game it was going to be or if they were going to take some liberties with it as well. And the only thing I was a little nervous about was that last year, in 2022, we saw Uncharted come out, another video game from Naughty Dog made into a movie that I was a fan of. I enjoyed it for what it is, but it wasn't a true adaptation, and Tom Holland and was in it as Nathan Drake, and still enjoyable enough, not necessarily a great video game adaptation. But The Last of Us had a lot more riding on it for me because it is more of an emotional story, not a crazy fun quips and adventure film like Uncharted is. But there's more stakes and you get more emotionally invested. The Last of Us were probably one of the best games of the last generation on the PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 now has the re-release of the first game. So my thoughts on the show is that I really enjoyed The Last of Us. I think that there was some moments in the game that they brought to life, and I immediately got awestruck by how they were able to do it. The first episode of the show is heartbreaking and mesmerizing. It's shot in a way that it really mimics the video game, and it brings it to life. There's moments here that they have slowly made better from the game, and also things that maybe they missed in the game, but also were able to do something, a new little take on it that maybe don't translate as well from video game to a television show. I think this has some really great performances. I love Nick Offerman's episode, and I think he was really great character as Bill there. I really think The Last of Us is a top tier TV show that I really enjoyed. I'm super excited for season 2, but I know what's going to happen in season 2. I'm really curious if they're going to really kind of shut down Seattle and go full Seattle mode in The Last of Us season 2. Only time will tell on that. But I really loved The Last of Us, and I think that was a really great adaptation and a good start in the right direction for making video games great TV shows and movies. So let's jump into our next movie, and that is the Super Mario Brothers movie. Does star Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Jack Black as Bowser, and Charlie Day. One thing about this film that really kind of caused controversy was when that cast list announced. It was probably the safest list of actors you probably could have picked from anybody if you were trying to really go safe options as these iconic characters of Mario. We've seen Mario become kind of a flop at the theater. We saw the 1993 film, which I did review, so you can check out the link down in the show notes or right above my head here. That movie kind of flopped. It's entertaining if you go back and kind of laugh at it, but interesting to see how they did this animated movie here. And Illumination was in their hands, and they're really known for great bright, vibrant colors, and with the Despicable Me franchise and the Secret Life of Pets, the Lorax as well. Some other films, of course, thrown in there. But the Super Mario Brothers is very vibrant, and it really has the feel of mushrooms, the Mushroom Kingdom here. I thought this was a really good adaptation. Is it one of my favorite adaptations of the year? Probably not, but I really loved Jack Black as Bowser. And I thought Chris Pratt, even though the trailers didn't make him seem like that great as the choice of Mario, really liked the choice of Mario here. And I do think that if they do make the second one with the tease of Yoshi at the very end credits, really excited for that. I'm really going to be on board. The one takeaway here is that Donkey Kong was kind of my least favorite part of the movie, and I wanted him to be more expanded on because Donkey Kong's another iconic character that I would love to see a movie from. And hearing that they're going to do like a Super Smash Brothers movie at some point, that would be fantastic. At least that's the rumor anyway. I would love to see like a Donkey Kong Country movie, a Zelda movie, a Metroid, Star Fox, all those things. That if Illumination is able to actually pull that off, oh, I want to be really on board. If I'm looking at a tier list of the films, this probably is kind of mid tier for me out of all the properties here. And but at the same time, it's not a bad film. I wouldn't watch this one again. And I think the nature of the characters and the seeing all the different Koopas and different kind of nostalgic little moments and sound bites from the show, from the video games rather, are just entertaining and worth the price of admission. And this was a really fun watch as well. But I think, all the cast members do a really good, even though I felt like they were super safe, they were able to pull it off and make a really great film here. So Jack Black is probably my favorite part in the Peaches song. That's going to be fun if that gets an Oscar nom. Our next show that we're going to talk about is Twisted Metal, that is streaming on Peacock. The first season's there, and it stars Anthony Mackie as John Doe and Stephanie Beatrice as Quiet. Will Arnett's there as the voice of Sweet Tooth, and Thomas Hayden Church as Agent Stone. And Samoa Joe, the wrestler turned actor here, is playing the physical embodiment of Sweet Tooth. Now, Twisted Metal is a franchise that I have fond memories of, not from the first original PlayStation days like Twisted Metal 1 and 2, but I have a PlayStation 2 game called Twisted Metal Black that my brother and I used to play a lot of, and the Rolling Stones song playing in the background, Painted Black. It's got really nostalgic towards Twisted Metal Black every time I hear that music play. Honestly, I didn't know how this was going to translate to the small screen on the TV. I think parts of the show does work. However, some of the humor for me doesn't, and some of the moments here as well don't work as well. The video game, if you're not unfamiliar with it, is about these different characters in cars. It's a kind of a destruction derby, and they have guns on their cars and stuff like that. There's a big giant tournament. We didn't see any really of the things that the game really embodies, other than we saw characters like John Doe, Agent Stone, Sweet Tooth, and others as well pop up here. But I wanted to see more of that tournament. And I think that the tease at the end of season 1 is where I got really excited for season 2, because I'm like, oh, this is just a kind of an average show. It's entertaining. There's some fun moments. I love seeing Stephanie Beatrice here and Anthony Mackie. They have a weird chemistry, but they make it work here. Thomas Hayden Church, of course, it's a big fan favorite of our podcast. We really like seeing him. So seeing him as Agent Stone here, I like what he was able to do. And I'm a big fan of Samoa Joe. I think, though, Samoa Joe should have voiced Sweet Tooth. I think I would have liked that a little bit better than Will Arnett. Because, again, Will Arnett does that really deep voice. He did Lego Batman and stuff like that. So I would have loved to see Samoa Joe get the voice speaking here. But while it's entertaining and has moments of really great action here, it is kind of a mixed bag for me. It is just at times the humor doesn't work and it just falls flat. There's moments where they try to push the boundaries of like what this show is and trying to make it vulgar for the sake of being that way. But what really gets me excited for that season 2, of the 3 properties we have talked about, this is probably my least favorite of the properties. However, I'm really excited more for the sequel than maybe like Super Mario Brothers. So kind of exciting for that. But Twisted Metal, if you do have Peacock, it is worth a stream because there are some really fun moments there. Again, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but if you're a big fan of the series and the games, then that season 2 is going to be money. And Neve Campbell in this show too, wanted to see her a little bit more prominently. So our next entry is Resident Evil Death Island, which is like an anime mixture in the Resident Evil franchise. So Resident Evil has a long-going video game franchise, as well as films with Mila Jovovich as live in the live-action format. They've also made several anime versions as well. So when Death Island was announced, and I saw that first trailer for Death Island, I was excited because they used the same character models as they did in the Resident Evil remakes, so Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and of course Resident Evil 4 that just came out in 2023. I played through and platinumed on PlayStation Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. I'm still working on my Resident Evil 4 Platinum, but I really loved the remakes they have done, even though there's some criticism with the third one. But Death Island here, Resident Evil Death Island, does see some of the actors from the video game reprise their roles in these characters, and we see our kind of characters: Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, and Leon Kennedy travel to Alcatraz Island because there's some kind of weird thing that these people are getting sick on, and they have to go to Alcatraz for it. Go to find out, yeah, there's a guy experimenting on with these strands of a virus and causing people to become infected, and of course they have to fight the zombie horde, and it ends just like every final boss in the Resident Evil game, a big epic mutated monster at the very end, and it plays really well for me being a Resident Evil fan. Am I excited for a future anime Resident Evil film? Sure, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to happen anytime soon. However, I'm really excited to go back and dive into those games. That's what this movie did for me. It wanted me to go back and actually play as the characters that we actually saw on screen. There were some really fun concepts they were able to do here, and seeing the character models from the game kind of in another format and spending more time with these characters made me enjoy the games even more. And I think that's what really did. Is this a great film that every audience is going to love? Probably not. But for me and for what I was watching, it is definitely one of the more entertaining entries this year. And it's one that's definitely going to fly under the radar because it didn't go to the theater. It went straight to DVD or streaming. And that's something that a reason why I wanted to talk about it, because I think that this one is going to be slowly overlooked and kind of forgotten by it. But as a whole, what they were able to do here was a lot of fun. And so I definitely think you should guys check out Resident Evil Death Island if you love the video games as much as I do. And our last talking point for this episode is going to be Gran Turismo. Of course, this just came out in the theaters, and I did a full review on it, so definitely check the comments section down below with that pinned comment. That's where you can find that review. Gran Turismo, a video game that was also inspired a true life event of a guy having so good at the game that he got an opportunity to become a race car driver and became a very successful driver in itself, with over 200 races raced, and he even had really great finishes too. The movie really did a great job mixing a video game with this real world elements here. I didn't know how they were going to make this game into a movie, but somehow they were able to work. Neil Blomkamp did a really great job telling the story, and I loved how when he was racing in these vehicles, he was able to kind of like slow things down and act like he was actually in the game, and you see the car kind of wrap around him. It's weird and hard to explain, but somehow they make it work, and it's super entertaining. It's an entertaining film that there's things I critique about it in my review, but it was an overall just a really fun time. That if you haven't seen Gran Turismo, or you just want a good sports movie to get you through the day to make you feel inspired, go watch Gran Turismo. I feel like it does do that, and does it really well. So as I close this video, I wanted to give you guys like a quick top 5 games I would love to see be brought to either the TV or even the theater experience. Quickly mention the games here, and you can have a fun conversation down in the comments section. So number 5, I want to see Metal Gear Solid. This is partly because I haven't really spent a whole lot of time in the games yet. So I'm sure if I play more of the games a little more thoroughly, get some more hours in, definitely this game is definitely gonna be higher on my list. But Metal Gear Solid definitely deserves the kind of a video game movie experience. So number 4, I'm going to go with BioShock. BioShock is a beautifully crazy creative world that's kind of is underwater. I would love to see a BioShock movie. I know this was in the works for some time. It's kind of fallen flat, become dormant, but BioShock, if you know anything about it, go take a look at it. That's a crazy game there. Number 3, I would say the Ghost of Tsushima. It's a relatively new game experience, but it's one that I can't kind of stop thinking. I thought it was really cool. You can make a really cool samurai film here. Would love to see kind of Ghost of Tsushima, Seventh Samurai type of experience there. And I think that would be an amazing experience for theatrical. Probably a TV show on that one. Number 2 on my list, I'd probably say Portal. Portal is so unique. It's you play as this lady who has a gun that can shoot these different portals, and you can transport to different little areas in these games. You have Gladys, this computer AI, kind of belittling you as you go through it. And I just really love Portal, and it's a really fun. Even the second game, I want to see a third game actually, but having a TV show or a movie based off Portal would be just so fun, and I would be all on board for it. And number 1 for me is Gears of War. I love this game, one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. Dave Bautista has been pushing to be the Marcus Phoenix. I would love to see that actually, but I definitely think Gears of War should be made a movie, and I would love I would be I might take it right when it gets announced. So that's my quick little ranking of what I want to see and my quick thoughts on each of the adaptations that came out this last year. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys would like to see going forward. We'd love to have a good conversation down there below.